Many alien girls jumped off a cliff, when many human soldiers rushed. I remember the sky that day, fractured, burning, and painted with the pale blue smoke of collapsing ships. The air itself screamed. We had called it the last dawn, though it came long before any sunrise. We were children of Lorinth, born among the cliffs that rose over endless seas of violet mist. Our people had no armies, no weapons strong enough to defy what came from the void. When the Dominion fleet descended, there were no warnings, no speeches, only the sound of bombardments tearing the mountains apart. We ran, hundreds of us, mostly girls, clutching each other's hands as the ground shook beneath our feet. The elders told us to flee to the western cliffs, that rescue ships would come. They never did. Only fire followed. And when we saw the horizon burning, when the world turned to smoke and thunder, something inside us broke. The first to step toward the edge was Syrah. She was the strongest among us, or so we thought. She looked down into the abyss and whispered, "Better the fall than their cages." The Dominion did not kill quickly. We had seen what they did to captives: experiments, branding, enslavement. The girls nodded, trembling but resolute. One by one, we gathered near the edge of the cliff. I stood among them, my heart hammering against my chest, watching the mists twist below. I was 15. I thought that would be my last heartbeat. Then, out of the haze, came thunder again, not the Dominion's artillery, but something different. It was steady, rhythmic, mechanical. Metal footsteps, engines growling, wind tearing against sails of fire. At first, we thought it was more death. But then we saw the banners, red and white, streaked with soot, but unmistakable. Humans. They had come. I had heard stories of them. The elders called them the Mad Wanderers, a young species with no place in the galactic order. The Dominion called them dangerous, unpredictable, and violent. I had seen their images, creatures of flesh and iron, with faces too expressive and eyes that burned like stars. They came not in legions, but in handfuls, 20 soldiers, maybe more, clad in battered armor that carried the scars of many wars. Their dropships roared as they descended into the smoke, landing hard on the broken plateau behind us. And when the hatch opened, they ran. They did not advance cautiously as the Dominion did. They sprinted, shouting in their strange, guttural tongue, towards the cliff where we stood ready to jump. "Wait! Don't move," one of them shouted through the translator field, his voice breaking through static. We flinched. The first of our group stepped closer to the edge. I could see her tears glimmering. The human tore off his helmet, a reckless act in this toxic air, revealing a face streaked with sweat and soot, eyes wild with fear. But not fear for himself, fear for us. "Please," he shouted again, gasping. "We're here to help you." Behind him, others followed, medics, soldiers, all scrambling up the shattered slope, slipping on the debris. One fell, cut his arm, and still kept climbing. We didn't believe them. Why would we? Every species that had come before promised safety, and we paid in blood. But then one of the girls, Rin, lost her footing. She slipped on the gravel, and the cliff took her. I remember screaming her name. The human nearest to her didn't hesitate. He dropped his rifle, dove forward, and caught her wrist just as she disappeared over the edge. His entire body was halfway over the precipice, legs dangling in the void. Two others rushed, grabbing his armor, anchoring him by sheer strength. The wind tore at them, dust filling the air, but they pulled, inch by inch, until the girl was back on solid ground. He collapsed beside her, coughing, his breathing ragged. His armor was cracked. I thought he would be angry, but instead, he smiled. "You're safe now," he said softly. That was the moment everything changed. We no longer saw monsters. We saw beings willing to die for someone they didn't even know. One by one, the soldiers surrounded us, forming a defensive ring. A woman among them, tall, with silver streaks in her hair, crouched beside me. She placed her gloved hand over mine. "We'll get you out," she said. "No one else dies today." I wanted to believe her. The explosions in the distance said otherwise. The Dominion was advancing again, their dropships darkening the horizon. The human commander barked orders, rapid, sharp. The soldiers formed firing lines, drones whirring overhead. The sound of railguns and pulse rifles filled the air. The humans fought like a storm, reckless, fierce, unrelenting. I had never seen anything like it. They didn't fight to win territory. They fought to protect us. Every time a girl stumbled, a human turned to cover her. Every time one of them fell, another stepped forward. They didn't retreat. Not once. When our escape shuttle finally arrived, a last-minute miracle called in by their fleet, half of them stayed behind to hold the line. The same man who saved Rin was one of them. He looked up at the sky as the shuttle's engines roared, and I remember the faintest smile on his bloodied lips. "Get them home," he said to his commander. "That's what matters." We were pulled aboard the shuttle, shaking, covered in ash. Through the viewing port, I saw them, those mad, impossible humans, fighting against the advancing Dominion troops. They were outnumbered 20-1. And still they fought. When the shuttle broke through the smoke and entered the upper atmosphere, the planet's surface became a blur of fire and shadow below. The human ship that awaited us in orbit, the Aegis Dawn, opened its hangar doors, guiding us in. As we disembarked, medics rushed to us, wrapping us in thermal blankets, checking vitals. Some of the human soldiers aboard watched silently. Their faces were tired, solemn, but their eyes softened when they saw us. One of them knelt to my level. He spoke gently. "You're safe now, little one." The others, they made sure of it. Have the soldiers below survived? But I didn't. His silence told me enough. The humans didn't celebrate. They didn't boast. They just carried on, tending wounds, sending distress beacons, preparing for the next battle. We stayed aboard their ship for months as refugees. And in that time, I learned who they truly were. They laughed loudly, argued constantly, and cried openly. They carried pain like a second skin, yet found joy in the smallest things. They shared their food with us, their stories, their strange music. And when we asked why they saved us, why they would risk so much for strangers, their answer was always the same. Because someone has to. In time, the Dominion fell. Not because of their power, but because of what humans spread, hope. Worlds that had once feared them began to rally around them. Even our people, once too broken to stand, found strength again. Years later, I returned to that cliff. The world was green again, rebuilt under human and Lorenthian hands. There was a memorial there now, a stone carved with the names of the soldiers who never came back. I placed a white flower on the stone and whispered, "Thank you." Because of them, we lived. Because of them, we learned that courage is not born of strength, but of love. And every time I look up at the stars, I remember that day. When many alien girls jumped off a cliff, many human soldiers rushed to the scene.